thought I was not going to make it, but I couldn't breathe halfway. But about 10 miles from here, I couldn't breathe by myself. I have to tell Troy to keep going fast so the air could go in. Keep my mouth open like that, or the air could go in. And when I got to hospital here too, said my body temperature was really cold, really low. You know, I kept my blanket down here so I could breathe. Said my temperature was really low. So cold, huh?
Hello, I'm Victor Allen. Welcome to TAMAPTA. As you have heard, David Kessler had a very frightening experience. His close encounter with death was a result of eating poisoned food. In this program, we'll be talking about botulism and how it can be prevented. The retap to minita dukta rehe the makuninga the kilunigilo to kunanigilu init to kunaktako matakanok munarekret. The retap kwa the dukta rehe tanik turugok the makuno takanalak to a kabluitap kolo to takat idit kabluitap to manga. Koyanak.
Charlie and Persis Gruben, elders from Tuktuyak, to explain why there are problems today in preparing of native foods.
Young people today, they don't know how to put the meat away and stuff like that. They just cut them out and throw the meat away and, you know.
Kind of walk out. And
some of the people, quite a few people get poisoned with muktik. You know, when you can watch the muktik when it's getting poisoned, it's kind of green. And it's not what I mean, fit to eat. There's no air goes into it in a plastic bag.
People long ago, they use a thick canvas or anything like canvas, things like that. They cover them after they put the wood over it. Cover it good, just for overnight. Can't stay 2 nights like that because the meat gonna get sour. Can't cut it. Can't stay on a rack. And the muktak, the same with muktak. So they really could watch them good. Now today, the young people think they could just leave it and might think it's good to eat. You don't know what good or bad.
David Kezaket Muktak, which had been stored in an airtight container. Here is his story.
Moose soup. And we were so hungry when we ate moose soup, and we had some that muktak, but the other boys, they had this little bit, and me, I had about 2 big pieces. It was half frozen when I ate it. And after we ate, and we were so tired, we went to bed. Next day when I got up, I started getting cross-eyed, like in 14 hours. 14 hours, start getting cross-eyed, like. And I was getting sick a little bit that morning, and I stayed home all day that night. And I had chicken soup, and I had boiled branches. You know the branches, huh? We boil it. And I had the juice of it, and I drank some. And after that, started getting sick, getting worse all the time. So, you know, I laid down for a little while. And I was getting more sick at night, towards nighttime. And I was getting too sick, and I can't talk no more a little bit. And I barely could go to the washroom. Just me and Troy was home. No, on December, December the 12th or 13th, you were there. And that night, I couldn't talk no more. My tongue went dead. And I told Troy, I could talk a little bit, and I told Troy, take me to town. And he helped me on at the bark and put blanket. We had 2 skidoos, and he took his own skidoo, little Elan. Then about 9 o'clock at night, about 9:30 maybe, we start to town. Then we only got about halfway. I couldn't breathe no more. So I told Troy, go fast, go fast. So I just keep my mouth open like it's air going. Then every time he stop and check me, and I tell him, you know, I can't breathe no more when he's stopper and the big lakes over here, this side of Mackenzie. And I told Troy, go, go. You know, I can't breathe no more. So Troy start going. I tell him to go faster so the air could go in my mouth. Tell him to keep going fast, don't stop. But I couldn't talk, you know, a little bit. Told Troy, keep going, go faster. He keep looking back, I could tell him. Keep going faster so I could get air, more air. He thought he might tip or something when he, you know, when he go too fast. Just keep telling him, go fast. And when we hit them big lakes, I could see Inuvik. Then I told Troy, when he stop again, just for a few seconds, that I can't breathe. And I told Troy, go by ram air, might get stuck by go through the twin lakes, might get stuck in them banks. Told him to go by the ram air. Could talk a little bit only, then he understand me, go by ram air. And when I got to Fabi and Danny's, and when we stopped, after that I just black out, couldn't get no more air. After that I wake up at hospital. They had that little bag like it's pumping air into me. And I stayed in hospital. Stayed overnight, I guess, 1 day maybe. They sent for the plane and I went to Edmonton. And stayed in Edmonton. Everything went dead on me. Just straight bone left. Like that. Even right here, there's nothing left. I just could go like this on my leg.
Robert Cowley is the Chief Environmental Health Officer for the Inuvik Regional Hospital. He explained how botulism develops and begins to grow. He says botulism is the most deadly poison known to man.
Botulism is caused when the spore of Clostridium botulinum starts to grow. Now, the best way to describe a spore is it's like an egg or a seed, okay? And the spore will only grow when it gets the proper conditions. The proper conditions are temperature and the absence of air, or anaerobic conditions. The proper temperature is 3 degrees Celsius or above 3 degrees Celsius or 37.4 degrees Fahrenheit. The absence of air is created when you improperly store your product. Spores are universal. Spores are found in soil, they're found in mud, they're found in the animal or fish guts. So it's not the spore itself that is dangerous, it's the toxins produced when the spore starts to grow into the bacteria. Okay. The first symptoms of botulism are ptosis, which is a muscle weakness causing drooping eyelids, blurred or double vision, difficulty in swallowing, sore throat. This is often accompanied by a change in voice. Later symptoms include general muscle weakness, dizziness, headache. The symptoms usually manifest themselves 12 to 36 hours after ingesting the contaminated food. Sometimes it can take as long as 8 days, however. Death from symptoms usually results from respiratory failure or the inability of the lungs to work.
Do these symptoms resemble any other type of disease?
The symptoms of botulism can quite often be confused with other diseases. So it's very important, if you suspect botulism, that you advise your nurse or doctor that you suspect botulism, that you have ingested a suspect meal. This helps the nurse or doctor in their diagnosis.
When I was at Edmonton too, I tell all the doctors how I did it too. whole bunch of doctors, they sit on the chairs like that, and I sit in the front. How I edit and everything like that, how I did it. It's not black or anything like that. It's real good like that. But I think must have been airtight, like this container on it.
Do you remember how they made it before it was in the container? What the steps were?
That's how they just make it. You know, when they make aurok, the same thing like that. It had aurok in it. You know, just like makta when you have it, when you make aurok. Yeah. Yeah, but but that is, it had airtight lid on it.
What did they use a long time ago?
Bull and sealskin. They use it for also, they call it pork.
In the early days too, do you dig a hole in the ground, fill it up with water and put the mucktig inside and cover it up good for a whole winter's crop so they don't spoil. Just to freeze up time they pull them out and air them out or whatever, I don't know what they put them out for.
They don't use deep freeze alone, because they dig in the ground down to the frost. And they put their maktakadok on the meat like that, they put them and they then cover it with wood and moss like that, not to spoil from the sun. And when it starts getting cold, they pull them out. The only way they could keep their food good.
The important thing to remember when preventing botulism is that botulism spores are very difficult to kill. So our best method of prevention is to stop those spores from growing. There's two ways to stop them from growing. One is to keep your food at the proper temperature. The proper temperatures are 3 degrees Celsius, 37 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. The second preventative measure is not to allow an anaerobic or airless environment to occur. We prevent the airless environment from occurring by not storing our food in sealed garbage bags, by not storing our food in sealed plastic tubs, and if we are keeping our food in oil, by stirring frequently. If either of these two measures are taken, then the product can't support the growth of the spores and the toxin can't be produced. The first and most important thing to do if you develop the symptoms or think you have developed the symptoms of botulism is to go to your nurse or your doctor. Tell your nurse or your doctor why you think you have botulism. Explain the symptoms to them. Explain to them that you've eaten a suspect food. It's very important at that stage also to save samples or portions of the suspect meal that you haven't eaten so the environmental health officers can send those out to be tested for botulism toxin. If you're treated quickly with the antitoxin, you have a good chance of recovery. So it's very important that you get in quickly and identify to the nurse or doctor that you do suspect that you have botulism.
Keep looking at it all the time when I first see it. After I edit, I'm scared. When I first see it, I just got scared of it. And after a little while, a few years later, about a couple of years later, I start eating it again. When it's right. When my dad says it's all right to eat, you know, when he says it's all right to eat, I eat it. So I believe him.
We don't want to scare you from eating native food, but we want you to understand that there are proper ways of preparing and storing country food. We all know that native food is very good for you. When the Yukon or Slope me, he wouldn't know coming parks look Tony. The very Dave Murley team crowds lit up cookie gilaw and a cock them up in Nakani, coming a Kenya Hodik. The very go can you eat tap go big pudding and the Koti Yagat cube pudding.
Dave, why do we need a management plan for the Northern Yukon National Park?
Years ago, they didn't have management plans for national parks, but we find that a management plan, basically it's a instruction manual to like how to manage the park's resources, and it keeps, well, it helps the managers of the park keep kind of the long-term view, and it also is it's a public document. The management plan shows the world what we're going to do to manage the park and how we're going to manage something that actually belongs to all the Canadian people, and is certainly of great concern to the neighbors of the park.
Tim, who will be involved in the management plan process?
I'd like to give you an overview of what we've done so far, just at the initial stages of the management planning program. And for Northern Yukon National Park Management Plan, we've started a preliminary advertising campaign in some of the community newspapers, and some of the people might have seen our ads. But we've been asking people to send in their names and addresses, and we've developed a mailing list. And with this mailing list, we hope to get all interested people, keep all interested people informed about the planning program, and send out all the material about the planning program. The first bit of information that we will be sending out will be our first newsletter, which should be coming out within the next few weeks, certainly by the middle to late May time frame. And people can get a really good overview of the planning program through that newsletter. Some of the other things that we're doing as far as the public participation goes is that we're producing a video. The Inuvialuit Communication Society is producing a video for us, which is also giving us an overview of the planning program. This video will be done in Inuvialuit tongue, French, and English, so we're going to cover everybody in the general area. In addition, we're going to be staging a round of public meetings, and these are going to be held in Ivvavik, Inuvik, Old Crow, as well as Whitehorse and Yellowknife, and they're going to be sort of an open house type of format, but also we might be holding some special meetings with some interested groups, whether they be Inuvialuit tongue or Inuvialuit people, or other government departments, other native groups, that type of thing. As far as the time frame for these public meetings, we haven't nailed down the dates yet, but we're looking in the time frame somewhere between the middle of May to the first week of June, and we encourage people to keep looking at their local newspapers for these upcoming meeting notices.
As park planner, what are some of the issues you're most concerned with?
Well, there's, I guess in a general way, we're concerned with all of the resources of the park, the natural resources and the cultural resources. The idea of a national park is that we're protecting the resources, but also encouraging the public's I guess, enjoyment of them. So we'll be worried about how we can encourage visitors to come to the park, and sort of we have this twin mandate of looking after the resources and getting people to come and enjoy them and to learn from them. Specific things in Northern Yukon Park are the porcupine caribou herd and the waterfowl, like the snow geese migration. We will be involved in protecting their habitat and managing those species. I guess some of the more contentious issues will be to do with facilities and what facilities we should put in for visitors, if any, and what facilities should we put in for park operations. There's Stokes Point is in the park, and right now there's a North Warning Site going in there, and it's an area of interest to many parties. There's a dew line site, Comakuk Beach, is also in the park, and that dew line station will be decommissioned, and eventually there'll just be an unmanned north warning site there. But that was the first dew line station in Canada, and we may want to commemorate it in some way, or protect part of it as a historical monument to the dew line. I guess there's always, you know, as far as park operations, you know, the wardens are worried about maybe Southerners coming up and poaching and that sort of thing. So I don't know if that's an issue or not. Just thought of it now, was something to bring up. But anyway, there's, and I think that we'll learn more of the issues once we start talking to people, and they'll start talking about what they think are the important things in the park, and things that we should be aware of when we're going around to planning how we're going to look after the park.
How important is Inuvialuit participation in this planning process? Management plan.
Well, it's key. It's a very key component of the planning process. When you look at the history of Northern Yukon National Park and how it was formed out of the agreement, the Inuvialuit final agreement, it's a component that we're going to be keeping in mind right from the whole start of the planning process right into the end. And also we have some specific committees that are going to be put in place, one of them being the Northern Yukon Planning Advisory Committee. Maybe, Dave, I'll just pass this over to you. You could maybe expound a bit more on the advisory committee role.
All right, well, the Planning Advisory Committee we set up to sort of help guide the planning process. And well, I met with the Inuvialuit Game Council and talked about how the Game Council would like to be involved, and they suggested that we set up a committee, and they appointed 3 members, or 3 representatives to this committee. Rini Airy, Barbara Allen, and Alex Avigana are the Game Council representatives, and Dan Franzen, who's the acting Chief Park Warden of the park, and me as the planner. The 5 of us sit on this committee, and each stage of the plan we discuss you know, what we're going to do, so that there's a pretty good, you know, we get a good amount of Inuvialuit involvement, and we're made aware of what the local concerns are that way.
Once the park is established, would that limit any kind of economic development on the, I mean, aside from tourism, any other type of non-renewable resource development on the North Slope?
Well, let's see. The park covers only half of the North Slope, and I guess I should say, too, it's established, it's there. The National Parks Act doesn't allow many kinds of doesn't allow mining, for instance, or pipelines, and there's a whole bunch of things that can't go on or can't be built in a national park. And so for the most part, I'd say that the answer to your question is that yes, the most development will be stopped or won't be permitted. I guess the eastern half of the North Slope is another question that's up to other people to work on that. But Northern Yukon, the west half of the North Slope that's in the national park will have very limited or probably no commercial development. Yeah. Some of that we can talk about in the management plan, but for the most part, the combination of the Inuvialuit Final Agreement, which says that the park has to be a wilderness area, and the National Parks Act, which defines what a wilderness national park is, means that we don't have much leeway there. We're kind of tied to having it be a protected wilderness area. And even things like, we talk about tourist facilities, but I don't think we'd be able to put in a tourist lodge or anything like that, because the National Parks Act and the definition of wilderness and the fact that the Inuvialuit Final Agreement says this is a wilderness means that we'd be, we couldn't put up a hotel. Yeah. No roads, no, you know, sort of thing.
Is there anything else you'd like to stress, such as maybe public participation at the meetings? Stress that somehow?
Yeah, certainly. I encourage people to look for our meeting notices. We're going to be kind of covering the whole area. I know that we'll be putting ads in Tuxayatsat and the Inuvik Drum and perhaps some of the other northern newspapers. So people are well aware when these meetings are going to take place. They can write them on their calendars, and hopefully they're going to attend. And the other thing is to get their names on our mailing list. That's the key to the program, as well as to be informed and to be kept abreast of any new developments. Get your name on there, your full address, and you're going to be a key component of the management planning program.
I guess I can add too that you could probably you know, contact the Hunters and Trappers Committee in your community as well if you wanted to have you know, if you wanted to talk about the park and if you had concerns, because we'll be meeting with the Hunters and Trappers and the Game Council and lots of other people in the community, so want to find out what's going on, what you think.
One other thing as well, I should maybe just explain how you can go about getting your name. You can either send it to myself, Tim Krause, in Winnipeg, or else you could visit the Canadian Park Service office in Inuvik and leave your name there as well, and they'll forward it to me, and I'll look after it from there.
Thanks very much, guys.
Great, thank you.
You.
All right.
Great.